Good evening and welcome to the Greg Tompsett. I'm gonna start calling it football show because that's all I'm gonna talk about now is football. You are here joining us on this wonderful week 1 Sunday night break. I am here to take you all around the NFL, give you 100% of the recaps of the game with 0% of the Jason Garrett. It's so much better than Sunday Night Football. Come and join us here. We're going to hang out and be able to go around, and I will jump right into it immediately, sharing the game that all of us watched together on Thursday night. Obviously started out with a really powerful drive by the Ravens, looked really, really good, punched it in with, being able to, you know, hammer it home with Derrick Henry. That was really cool. And then the Chiefs come back and immediately answer with just lightning in their offense. And, anybody who's saying that Casey's offense didn't look pretty scary is probably lying. Um, Rashee Rice looked dynamic. Xavier Worthy only had a couple touches, but looked like the fastest guy on the field when he did it. Chris Jones looked unblockable at times. They certainly slowed down a little in the second half. The last touchdowns of Worthy was purely a blown coverage. That wasn't anything special that they did. I thought that Baltimore had multiple opportunities to get back in this game. Isaiah Likely obviously looked fantastic. That's one where an awful lot of people are going to be asking some hard questions for if you drafted Mark Andrews and now what do you do with Isaiah Likely? If you're a fantasy owner, how much fab do you blow on Isaiah Likely? Look like a pretty significant piece of their offense. I don't know if it's going to be quite like that, but look pretty significant. But the Chiefs look for real. Of course, they're going to be. We'll see where it goes as the season goes along. I thought there were some chinks in that defense that Lamar wasn't able to take advantage of. That we'll see as it goes. But ultimately, they looked really, really good. Second game early on in the week was the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles, because of course the NFL would host a game in Brazil in a city where they warned you not to wear green by inviting the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles. This is a very, very NFL thing to do. This game, another one that started out one way and ended another at one point. Multiple scoring drives, short field goals, Green Bay in position to maybe be up 14-0. They were only up 6-0. Those games often come back to bite you. Philly opened up with 2 turnovers in their first 2 drives. And then we saw basically Saquon Barkley and Jaden Reed trade scores back and forth. Saquon ended up scoring 3 touchdowns. Any Giants fans, I cannot imagine watching him not only leave and go to a division rival, watching Hard Knocks this summer and being able to go in and see that they didn't even really make that much of an effort to keep him, go to your rival and score 3 touchdowns in his first game. Just heartbreaking stuff. The Packers had a legit shot here, a couple, weird plays down the line where, some weird play calls, some odd decisions from Jordan Love, not like as good of a game as we've seen in the past. He had an interception and a fumble. Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts started out really bad, but then ended honestly pretty strong. Looked pretty good. Had another bad throw later on, but ultimately put his guys in position to be able to make a play. The big news from this is Jordan Love's MCL injury looked really bad. Looked like it could have been an ACL. Right now, it looks like it's just a MCL that's going to be big, and being able to kind of keep them from having to go pivot to maybe a Ryan Tannehill or something like that. Producer Chris accurately predicted that Tom Brady would be horrible in the booth. He was. It was really, really bad if you watched any of the Cleveland-Dallas game. But maybe they would have called him. Green Bay is a really talented roster. It doesn't seem like that would be the case now, predicted 3 to 6 weeks that he'll be out. But Philly was a team that I did not think was going to be coming out and putting up 34 points. Saquon Barkley looked even better than expected. That's got to be a little bit reassuring on their side. The upset of the day, many of you listening may have already been knocked out of your eliminator pool. The Cincinnati Bengals were the largest Vegas favorite on the day. Most books had them between 8.5 and 9.5. The Patriots came out and just punched them in the mouth. Joe Burrow could not get much of anything going. It was a late score when they did it. It was 13-0 for a big chunk of this game. The Bengals didn't score their first point until late into the third quarter, a minute 10 left in the third quarter. Former Bill Zach Moss punched it in from there. And just pretty hapless. Could not get much of anything going. Jamar Chase had some garbage time catches down the stretch. T. Higgins was a late scratch. Ramondre Stevenson ran tough. I did not think this Patriots team, the defense, I didn't think was going to be able to do this. Them scoring 16 points is right where I expect them to be. I think they're going to score 13 to 16 every week and kind of hang around and be annoying. But when they lost Christian Barmore and Matthew Judon, I just did not expect this to be this kind of performance. So good on them. I'll take a loss from the Bengals early on. Now the Bengals and Ravens, two teams the Bills will very likely be battling with for seeding as the season goes. Both have losses. I'll take that. The Buffalo Bills East Rutherford chapter had a rough start to the season. They got shellacked by the Minnesota Vikings. This one double stings because, I kind of root for the Giants. There's so many former Bills there. Brian Daboll, former GM Joe Shane. It's something that they have a lot of players that I enjoy being able to watch. Is Backbone here is saying Joe Shane's job is in jeopardy. Yeah, everybody connected to that team. They looked real bad. To make things worse, we have the Vikings second round pick. This is a sneaky game that really would have helped us from a draft position standpoint. The Vikings have a lot more tough games down the stretch with others in their division. The Packers, obviously, depending on they play later when Jordan Love will be back. You have the games against the Lions and others on the schedule. It would have been this Giants game would have been a nice one to be able to get a W in there for that draft pick. And instead, the Vikings just smoke where they're at. It just was unbelievable. I think at one point, Sam Darnold was like 13 for his first 13 or 14 for his first 14. He ended up throwing an ugly pick, and Sespinar here saying Daniel Jones just isn't that guy. Yeah, can confirm. Even Motor, I was kind of rooting for him. He wasn't able to get much of anything going. This is a bad news. I want to look. I actually thought the Giants would be able to get a little something going. When you have Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, you can't have one sack on the day. Minnesota's offensive line is not that good. Minnesota's defensive line is terrible. You can't run for 3.5 yards a carry. That's just not going to cut it. It just is not going to do it. For the box score scouts, no game is going to be less accurate than the people who just look at the score of Bears Titans. The Titans were up 17-0, maybe 17-3. No, 17-0. We're dominating this game. The Bears played terrible. Caleb Williams' initial NFL game was really bad. I'll get to that in a moment. And then Will Levis just willed the Bears back into this game with two interceptions, one return for a touchdown. They also blocked a kick and took it back for a touchdown. The Bears defense won this game single-handedly. I'm still a believer in Caleb Williams. Tennessee's defense is real. They added a ton of talent. They brought in, both L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie. They brought in a bunch of other talent on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not going to – they brought in Quandre Diggs late. They signed Sebastian Joseph Day, a guy that we were looking at. There's talent on this team, but it wasn't good. So Caleb Williams, 14-29, below 50% completion percentage, 93 yards, 3.2 yards per attempt. Took 2 sacks, both of them really bad, 29 yards worth of lost sack yardage, a quarterback rating of 55, a QBR of 22, really, really bad. So some people are going to look and be like, oh, the Bears won 24-17. Good start for the Bears. It was not. This was really, really bad. But they got a W. And in today's NFL, sometimes that's all that really matters. The dominant butt whooping of the day, Carolina, New Orleans. A lot of people maybe debated this as a sneaky upset late in the summer. I didn't really understand why, but the people were talking about how Dave Canales was going to improve Bryce Young the same way he did with Baker Mayfield and others in his career. And I just didn't see it. This Carolina team is absent of talent, like just straight up. They do not have enough talent to compete. The New Orleans Saints are not great, and they destroyed the Carolina Panthers. If you want a good bet every week, just pick the team over for whoever is playing Carolina, because this team is going to give up a boatload of points every single week. Um, Everyone on the Saints scored, except for Chris Olave. If you're a fantasy owner of Chris Olave, you have right to be mad because Rashid Shaheed, Foster Moreau, Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, Juwan Johnson, everybody except for Chris Olave. Chris Olave had, if you see the Saints went 47-10, and you see Derek Carr was 29-23 for 200 yards with 3 touchdowns. Oh, awesome. They probably got a great Chris Olave game. No, 2 catches for 11 yards. So, unfortunately there did not help out, but everybody else pretty good game. I was kind of I was under the impression that maybe Deontay Johnson would be a functional weapon. Certainly not in game 1. 6 targets, 2 catches for 19 yards. Old man Adam Thielen showed 3 for 49. Nobody really got much of anything going on this Carolina team. Bryce Young, 13 of 30, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Just atrocious football. Terrible stuff. So we'll see where that's going to go, but not great. Maybe the one that surprised me the most was Pittsburgh Atlanta. I'm a little confused. Kirk Cousins took 0 snaps from under center. So I don't know if they're not telling us everything about the Achilles. I don't know that you can run a modern NFL offense with 0 snaps from under center, 0 play action. Like I just don't know if that's going to be functional, and certainly not against a defense like Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh already had Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, talent all over the place. And now you add Patrick Queen, you give them, Cam Hayward's back healthy. That's just way too much talent on defense. You can't do that. I like Atlanta this year. I think that there's enough talent there to matter. But if Kirk Cousins is going to be just a park and bark guy that literally can't move in the pocket, this is going to be tough. So Pittsburgh won a game where they didn't score a touchdown. Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. They could not punch in anything throughout the day. But it was enough, and 18-10 took it home. Justin Fields was okay. Took 2 ugly sacks. 17-23 is pretty good. 156 isn't anything special, but 14 carries for 57. That's, a lot of rushing usage. I got to talk to some Pittsburgh people. I don't know if that's enough to hold on to the starting job for another week if Russ is healthy, but they won the game. They didn't score a touchdown. He didn't get into the end zone the whole day. But they won the game. They figured out a way. It's going to have to work. In a game that is going to hurt the feelings of Bills fans, Travis Etienne cost us a Miami Dolphins loss. Jacksonville was up 17-7 late in this game. Let me see at what point the fumble occurred. Right here, 94-yard drive, 6 plays, 94 yards. Down at the 13, he was actually running into the end zone, had a pretty good shot. At a minimum, was at the 10-yard line. Fumbled, gets recovered in the end zone, gives it back. The next play, 80-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill. Just a back-breaking play, literally a 14-point swing, about to go up 24-7. Instead, it's 17-14. Just completely bungled this game away. Had a chance to be able to really take care of it, and just could not get it done. Then come back and went for 4th down on their own 32. It was the first play of the 4th quarter. I like aggressive play calling, but your own 32 is a lot. And if you're going to do it, you got to get that. You cannot get stuffed. They gave him the ball right back. So Dolphins end up kicking a game-winning field goal as time expired, 20-17. Bills and Dolphins are going to come in undefeated going into week 2. So we'll be able to see that matchup coming in. Make sure you check out Aaron and I are going to have Tom Ernest from Dolphins Talk on with us Wednesday night to break that down. So make sure you come and join us then. Just a couple more games here in the 4 o'clock hour. Texans Colts was an interesting game. I think Anthony Richardson might be the highest variance player in NFL history. 9 of 19, less than 50% completions, but 11.2 yards per attempt. He completed 9 passes for 212 yards. The man averaged 23 yards per completion. Is unbelievable. He ran 56 times or 56 yards and a touchdown, 6 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown. So 9.3 yards per carry, 23 yards per completion. Just unbelievable in the variance that he has. 2 long bombs and a 60-yarder to Alec Pierce and a 54-yarder to Ashton Dulin. Probably needs a little bit more efficiency to be sustainable. But good lord, the man is just a walking big play. In Houston, just like last year, found a way to get it done. Another one-score game. Joe Mixon, 30 carries for 159 yards. Good lord. Just a huge volume day. Big game from Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and some jerk scored 2 touchdowns. I don't really want to talk about it. One of our final 2 games, Raiders, Chargers. So this game, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on. Chargers controlled most of this game. The Raiders did get an early score, but just kind of a hapless performance. Gardner Minshew looked pretty rough. I think there's a chance that we could see a change over to Aiden O'Connell, but I'm going to focus on just an unbelievable decision late in this game. It's right here. The the Raiders have the ball. They had just gotten a punt and gotten the ball back with a 21-yard return. Trey Tucker got a nice return, brought the ball up to almost midfield. They run for 2 yards. This is, in the fourth quarter. They're down by 6. They run for 4 yards or run for 2 yards. They run for another yard. They get a pass to Madison for 6 yards. It's 4th and 1. It's not a long one. It's just I'm watching the game at this point. It's 4th and 1. It's at the Chargers 43. They're down 6. There's 7 minutes left in the game. And Antonio Pierce chooses to punt, and it's one of the, least strategically sound. There's no analytical support for this. Sometimes you're supposed to punt in the analytics support it, but it's not cool and it's not popular. And there's a lot of people being like, well, actually trying to explain why. Not only do the analytics support going for it here, it is an incredibly strong must go for it decision. I don't know how you choose to punt there and then walk back in that locker room. It's one of the most cowardly coaching decisions I can recall seeing. Of course, he punts it to the Chargers, who then go, because karma mandated that they would go 8 plays, 92 yards in the backbreaking touchdown. It just was, absolutely foretold that when you give the most cowardly punt, the one metric that I watch was the most cowardly punt decision in their metrics history. Another one said it was the first time that a team down by 6 in opponent territory on 4th and 1 with under 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter punted since the 2016 Buffalo Bills with Rex Ryan, the ultimate trust your defense coach. Just unbelievable. So they deserve to lose. It's just a cowardly decision. Anybody who was curious, the carries in the backfield for the Chargers, 10 for J.K. Dobbins, 11 for Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins looked like that man's back. 10 carries for 135 yards and a touchdown. Looked real nice. Multiple explosive plays. One got called back by a penalty as well. So that backfield looks to be pretty healthily in the favor of Mr. Dobbins. Another game that ended up maybe a little more fun than I expected it to be was Broncos Seahawks. Bo Nix, the stats aren't great. He had 2 interceptions. He ran around a little bit, ran in a touchdown. It was not phenomenal, but it was okay. The Seahawks looked pretty good, but weirdly held on at the end. Couple odd plays. They give up 2 safeties. The Broncos had 10 points at one time, and 10 points is a super weird total to have when it's not a touchdown and a field goal. They had field goal, safety. And that is just an incredibly odd combination to have to get to 10 points. So the Seahawks end up coming back. They let the Broncos get back into it at one point and kind of make a little bit of a run at it, but pretty safe victory on their side. I thought that Kenneth Walker looked really good in this game. Not a ton in the passing game. I was hoping for a little more from DK Metcalf, but Patrick Surtain is a phenomenal opponent to go against. And Kenneth Walker, I thought, looked really nice. the Cowboys shellacked the Cleveland Browns. They had like an embarrassing touchdown at the end of the game. This was 27-3, 30-10 for almost the entire game. Like it felt like just a complete domination. They had a 60-yard punt return for a touchdown. Brandon Aubrey made a 66-yard field goal at the end of the half, but the Cowboys jumped off sides and they almost let him line up for a 71-yarder, and he made the 66-yarder by enough that he would have made the 71-yarder. And my wife and I were yelling to the TV, just furious that they wouldn't let him try, because it would have been, not only was his other kick that got called back tying the record, so he wasn't like he was one-upping it at 67. He would have shattered the all-time kicking record, and I think he would have made a 71-yarder, and that's outdoors in Cleveland. Brandon Aubrey is ridiculous as a kicker. That dude's awesome. The Browns look terrible, and Deshaun Watson looks terrible, and that's great. It's super fun that Deshaun Watson looks terrible. Everybody enjoys that. We all get to just bathe in it and watch him have to be terrible. It's really, really fun. He had the 5th fewest yards in NFL history for a quarterback with 45 pass attempts. So that's fun. That's a fun thing to be able to keep in mind. And our last game of the day was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the Washington Commanders. And guess who the only quarterback was to outscore our very own Joshua Patrick Allen this week in fantasy points? None other than Baker Mayfield. The Buccaneers were in control this whole game. It was 37-14. There was a late garbage score by Washington. But Mike Evans was unguardable. Actually, I take that back. Mike Evans was very guardable, and it didn't matter. Both his touchdowns had pretty phenomenal coverage, and he just caught the touchdown anyways. But great game. Chris Godwin, 8 for 83. Mike Evans, 5 for 61. Rachaad White had some nice production. Baker Mayfield slicing it up all over. So the combination of Deshaun Watson looking terrible and then Baker Mayfield at the exact same time going 24-30 with 4 touchdowns, karmic beauty as it happened. So we'll finish watching the Lions-Rams game here. Have some fun. We'll be doing 2 of these shows a week. I will do a preview show sometime during the week and drop that this week, probably on Friday, since we have the Thursday game from the Bills, and we'll do previews of the top matchups to watch for and some fun things to watch as it goes. And then we'll come again most of the time on Sunday Night Footballs at halftime to be able to give you guys a recap around the league. And as the season goes, talk more about, impactful games that impact the Bills playoff odds and all those different things, but just help kind of whip around the league and tell you the fun things that you might have missed while you're watching the Bills. Thanks for watching tonight. Again, it really, really helps with shows like this. If you can give us a like, press that button, be able to help us share. That's what tells other people about the show. So come and hang out. It's a ton of fun. We'll really enjoy it. But on behalf of our awesome producer, Chris Seth, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been watching the Greg Tompsett Football Show, and we are out.